Welcome back. It's time for a business update, and for that I'm joined by our business editor, Owen Fairclough. Hello, Owen.
Hello, Claire.
So it's the start of a big week for Europe with the clock running down to that French election.
France hugely in focus this week, Claire. Of course it is. It's the second round on Sunday. We'll find out whether François Hollande or Nicolas Sarkozy are going to be president, of course. Today, maybe a little bit more focus on Spain. You might remember the Spanish economy was downgraded once again at the tail end of last week. This morning, it always follows suit that the banks get downgraded. That's happened. 9 Spanish banks have been downgraded. Let's have a look at the numbers on the European markets as they've opened just in the last few minutes or so. You can see broadly positive across the board. The FTSE in London leading the pack around 0.7% up, but a vote of confidence in Spain with the IBEX up around 0.5%. Just to give you some more details there, I mentioned 9 Spanish banks downgraded. We had mass demonstrations right across Spain on Sunday with tens of thousands of people out demonstrating against the Spanish government's austerity programme, particularly when it comes to health and education. Now, we've also had, excuse me, this morning, GDP numbers out. We knew they were going to be bad. We knew last week from the Bank of Spain that Spain would probably even be in recession. It's official. Those numbers have been confirmed. The Spanish economy contracted by 0.3% in the last quarter. The only bright spot of news is it's marginally better than people thought. Most economists were much more pessimistic about Spain's prospects there.
Right, you've got a few earnings out. One of Apple's main contractors has missed expectations.
Yeah, this is Hon Hai, not perhaps as well known now as Foxconn, but nevertheless a key supplier for Apple. Its earnings out for the first quarter this morning. We should be able to put the board up for you with the latest earnings. It made a pretty tidy profit, around $500 million. That's around 3.7% up compared to the previous year. But that did miss expectations, as Claire says. A couple of others out for you there. Adidas always does well, once again proving it's good for the money, around 38% up for the first quarter, and AB InBev as well, their first quarter earnings up a very impressive 75%.
So, as Owen was saying, Spain has followed the UK officially into recession. The two countries are linked by big spending cuts that focus on cutting back to restore growth. But that logic is beginning to lose support. According to the International Labour Organization, European-style austerity is at fault for driving up worldwide unemployment. William Edwards has more.
It's a conclusion that many will agree with in struggling economies across the Eurozone. According to a new report by the International Labour Organization, austerity measures in many major economies are hurting job creation.
Austerity on its own doesn't work. It is counterproductive. Instead of promoting growth and confidence, it reduces confidence and growth. Instead of reducing deficits, it keeps high deficits all the time. What is needed is a growth and employment strategy.
The austerity question is one that's dividing Europe, with Germany leading those who insist that cuts and tax hikes are needed to get the Eurozone's finances in order. However, it's a bitter medicine, and it's not clear that it's working. Spain is one of those countries that's made big cuts in recent years, but the economy has just gone back into recession, and unemployment is the highest in the Eurozone at 24%. In France, presidential frontrunner François Hollande has talked of renegotiating Eurozone agreements intended to limit government borrowing. Angela Merkel has said that's impossible, although in an interview on Saturday she did back Hollande's suggestion of strengthening the European Investment Bank to help boost growth. This apparent easing of the German position on austerity may be down to the fact that Italy and other EU countries may side with Hollande.
Monti is going to believe Hollande, frankly, and so is Mariano Rajoy in Spain. And of course, the Greeks are. They are looking for some kind of rescue, some kind of line of help for them thrown to them. And so I think that the Germans are going to have to recognise that the political balance will have shifted somewhat.
The ILO estimates that if policies continue unchanged, an additional 6 million people worldwide will become unemployed this year.
Just worth noting while we're talking growth as well, El País, the Spanish paper, reporting that Eurozone officials, or EU leaders, I should say, are planning to get together some sort of Marshall-style plan. They will discuss that in the next EU summit. That will follow after the French elections, or the second round thereof, on Sunday, looking at potentially up to 200 billion euros in some kind of funding for Eurozone economies like Spain, which, if you've just joined us, the Spanish economy is officially in recession. That's according to the latest figures. Let's pick up on a couple more of the day's business headlines for you now, starting in India, where the government is in talks to further relax an embargo on cotton exports. Farmers have been demonstrating ever since the ban was imposed 2 months ago to try to stop reserves being further depleted. India has this year exported nearly a record 9.5 million bales of cotton. That's much higher than original estimates, with countries like China expected to drive demand for another 30 million bales.
And Yahoo's former chief executive Carol Bartz received a $16.4 million pay and severance deal. That's according to a regulatory filing made by the search engine. Bartz was fired in September last year with a year remaining on her contract after failing to turn Yahoo's fortunes around and leaving it vulnerable to takeover moves from Chinese online shopping site Alibaba. Bartz received a $3 million severance and $12 million in shares and stock options.
OK, now Nokia is preparing to face the music once again this Thursday. At its annual meeting, it's the first time it will face shareholders since unveiling its latest results. Eric Hollander is our digital content editor here at France 24. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
We've followed this company a lot over the past 12 months or so. There's really not very much to say about this company. Where do you start? Earnings well down. It's simply not selling phones. We've had profits warnings. The list simply goes on and on. What is happening to this company?
Let me tell you, I do not want to be CEO Stephen Elop on Thursday when he has to face investors. This has been just a devastating past few years for Nokia. Nokia is really going in the way of RIM and BlackBerry, which is, you know, for lack of a better way of doing it, circling the toilet bowl. There just simply isn't a place in the market right now for a phone that's not an Android or an Apple phone. The consumers have made their decisions, and right now that is basically the only choice that people want to have. The Windows phones, the Lumia phones that Nokia just released are not selling anywhere near the projections, and that is really the cause for concern for investors right now.
I think it was something like 2 million units, wasn't it, out of a total of 12 million. That's not really the kind of balance they want to be seeing. They're supposed to be getting these things out.
They need to sell 27 million of these units to be on track with their forecast. 2 million really doesn't put them anywhere near on schedule.
Now, Eric, Nokia used to be able to rely on selling high volumes of cheap phones to countries like India, but they can't anymore, can they? They've really got nowhere left to hide.
Well, you know, that was always the mantra of Nokia, was that it was strong in the developing markets while they let the premium tier, the iPhones and the Androids kind of stay in the developed markets. Let me give you a couple statistics that will paint the story and, again, give you this depressing picture. In India, their market share is down 50% up until 2011. In China, in the January to March period, they're down 62%. And in Africa, down just from last year alone, they're down 51%. From 2 years ago, they're down 62%. Now, it used to be that Nokia had the cheap phones, but now you can get an iPhone for $99. You can get Android phones for free. So really, they don't have the price advantage, they don't have the software advantage, and they're losing their core market in the developing markets.
Just briefly, we did see some images there of Vertu. This is Nokia's high-end brand. There's reports this morning that they're going to get rid of that. Is this just a drop in the ocean? We're talking about raising maybe 200 million euros from that. That's peanuts.
That is just peanuts. That really, at the end of the day, that's not where they're going to make their money. They can't cut their way out of this problem. They have to innovate. They have to create some phones that consumers actually want to have. I have my doubts about the Windows operating system. It's a beautiful operating system. People actually really do like it.
Good.
Aesthetically, people love it. But at the end of the day, there's Android and there's iOS, and the stores and the vendors and the operators are pushing those brands. They're not pushing Nokia.
Good stuff, Eric. Many thanks indeed.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Owen. That's it from me. Do stay tuned to France 24, all the latest headlines with Stuart in just a couple of minutes.